Good morning, everyone. My name is Yasmin Al-Hawi, specialized in grants in ARIJ. I would like to welcome all the audience here and via Zoom. I would like to welcome you in the second session of the second day of the ARIJ 17th Forum, titled quick presentations, mental security and safety and legal protection in coordination with the Art Center for Journalism and Trauma and the Reporter's Shield. We would be speaking today about building flexible communities through the support of the colleagues, peer-to-peer support. ARIJ will be presenting the peer-to-peer support program, and the second presentation would be about legal protection to investigative journalism through the Reporter's Shield. You can be able to participate through your questions and inquiries through the Q&A part on Zoom. I'm glad to introduce the speakers of Zeina Al-Hammouri, Director of Project Manager in ARIJ, Kate McMahon, specialized mental health and the Director of the Asia and the Pacific Ocean, and the Director of Reporter Shield. Let's start with our colleague Zeina Al-Hammouri. Thank you, Yasmin. Through our work, we work under so much pressure, and there are too many legal challenges threatening our work on a daily basis. Today, we're here to share with you two models. The first one, which we worked on in ARIJ last year, that addresses important topics, even though many times they are delayed until they are dealt with in emergencies. Our first collaboration started last year, and it was at the beginning of the war on Gaza. We were seeing too many painful pictures and videos through following the news and or on social media. It was easy for us to see the great impact of these scenes on us. We used to feel so much pain, anger, and inability to do anything. This influence was not, or effect was not only mental, it also affected our professional performance, especially on the fact checkers and other colleagues who were forced, who had to watch these videos and images continuously. This is where we started to collaborate with the Art Center, and the first stage was two trainings. The first one focused on how to handle traumas, exhaustion, and the second one focused on how to deal with violent scenes that we see continuously. The second stage was an intensified training, one-week training in our headquarters in Amman. It focused on how to support the individuals and how to build flexible communities or provide peer support to the colleagues at their workplace. After we finished the training, we had an ARIJ team who is capable of providing support internally and directly, and another team who can provide support to the peer-to-peer support at the newsrooms and other news outlets or media outlets. I am personally here, would like to announce that we opened the registration for institutions who are interested in such kind of training. That would be offered free by ARIJ in order to work on this important topic. Kate will share with us the importance of the peer-to-peer support.
Thank you, Zeina. Just while the slides are loading up, just to thank ARIJ for the opportunity to be here and to congratulate ARIJ on taking on the peer support program. What I will speak about this morning is a little bit about the concept of peer support and why it's important. But just to say that I'm honoured to be the only psychologist, I think, that has worked for over 20 years with journalists on the issue of trauma and resilience. So I'm very honoured to be here. Thank you so much. Oh, I also forget to say that I'm also a fact checker for First Check, which is part of Data Leads in India. I always forget that little bit of my bio. Okay, so ARIJ joins world's best practice in terms of trauma support and journalist support. The National Union of Journalists of the Philippines started a peer support after the Maguindanao massacre, and I went to the Philippines to work with them there. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC in Canada, Reuters, Washington Post and the BBC are just a few of who ARIJ joins in terms of this concept of peer support. So what is peer support? Just to give you a little bit of a background of what peer support is, and we know that journalists are very good at peer support, but peer support is about an equal relationship between two people, and it comes from having a shared experience. So generally speaking, managers don't offer peer support to subordinates. That would be in their management role, but it would be journalist to journalist, manager to manager. Although I do know in ARIJ there is a fluidity of boundaries there, and also in the Washington Post, where some managers sometimes are parallel to their staff. So the boundaries need to be a little bit fluid there. But really it's about a support system, a dedicated support system. Peer support is not a pseudo-counselling environment. It's really important. Sometimes people call it peer counselling. It is not a replacement for proper psychological support. Peer support, a dedicated program, is also not an opportunity for an organisation to abandon its duty of care to its staff. It's an adjunct, it's another part of the wheel, if you like, and it mustn't be the only response that an organisation offers to its staff in terms of its support. So I've developed here a model, what I call a trauma-formed media organisation. So it needs to be, peer support needs to be bound in policies and processes. It needs to be involved with training and educated managers, what we call trauma-informed managers, trauma-informed staff, and also connected to trauma and journalist-aware clinicians, if that's a possibility in the environment that people are working in. And it's also about connecting people up to wider social support, because we know the World Health Organization tells us that in trauma exposure, social support is the most important thing, far above getting in clinicians to do counselling. And this is what peer support is steeped in, that concept of social support. There are different types of peer support. Of course, as I said, journalists are very good at peer support, supporting each other naturally and organically. That's part of the tribe of journalism, if you like. But what we're talking about is what we call intentional peer support, where people are trained up, as ARIJ managers and staff were, where they're trained up in trauma-informed actions and how to do first-level psychological intervention. So it's got a purpose. It's dedicated to a particular focus. So the goals really are very simple of peer support: to provide an empathic listening ear, to provide that low-level intervention, a little bit like first aid. We call that intervention psychological first aid. And to then, if necessary and if available, if those resources are available, to facilitate pathways to mental health support if they're available. And I know in some situations that's not always available, so I recognise that. I know you're investigative journalists, so to know the research about this concept is that we know the research tells us that peer support programs reduce mental health stigma in the workplace, and so people feel freer to talk about mental health issues that they're having. It also reduces post-trauma reactions, and the research tells us that it also reduces anxiety and stress that is associated to traumatic exposure, and going forward, knowing that you're going to be experiencing more trauma exposure The peer support can assist with that process. And generally speaking, the research tells us that overall it has a positive impact on the organisation, that people have a strong sense that the organisation is caring for me, and so they are more dedicated and more committed to the organisation on that basis. So why have it? Well, I've talked about what the fundamentals of what it is. Many things that have been said to me when I've gone into organisations to talk about it, people have said, look, and these are direct quotes from people, look, it's a nice to have, but we don't have time to do peer support. Look, you're talking about war situations, really? You want to have peer support and we're covering a war? It's a luxury when people are dying. It's based on Western concepts, and it makes for soft journalists. We need our journalists to be dedicated and hard and get the job done. These are all things that have been said to me when I've talked about peer support to organisations and to managers. So my response to that is that I really strongly believe that peer support and trauma awareness is really a press freedom issue. Why is it a press freedom issue? Because traumatised journalists are silenced as much as journalists who are incarcerated. Physiologically, we know that trauma shuts down the articulation centres of the brain. So if you have journalists that cannot speak, that cannot articulate, that are frozen in their trauma, they are truly silenced. And so to have that trauma awareness, that trauma support, really is about allowing those journalists to speak the truths and report on the truths that they need to. We also know that trauma and fear causes people to self-censor. And I know that as a fact when I've spoken to many journalists in war and conflict situations, that the fear that they have causes them to self-censor. So having that peer support and that trauma awareness really helps them to get over that aspect. And what we know is that when we're traumatised, we tend to take more risks with our physical safety, our digital safety, our personal safety. And so in having peer support and trauma awareness can help us manage that and learn where our boundaries are about our physical safety. Peer-to-peer support also gives dedicated skills. It helps deepen the understanding of your reporting. If you have trauma awareness and that peer support, you can understand the trauma of the people that you are covering more. So it gives very dedicated craft skills to deepen and inform the trauma journalism, the journalism that you're doing. So it's about more empathic and accurate journalism. So yes, it's about the mental health, but peer support and trauma awareness is truly about the craft of journalism and a press freedom issue. In war situations, I've certainly trained up journalists to extend peer-to-peer support to other journalists, just as they have learnt to extend physical first aid. We don't send journalists into situations where they feel unskilled to extend at least basic first aid. So why don't we do that in terms of people's psychological first aid? So I come back and just say that it's not just a nice to have, it's an imperative skill to have in your reporting kit bag in conflict situations, in domestic situations, and all types of reporting. So I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. We will be having a workshop this evening at 9 p.m, which I think Jasmine has already talked about. Please, the Dart Centre website is up the top there, and my website QR code is there. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. شكرا كيت. والآن لنسمع بمزيد.
And now let's listen to more details about the legal support for investigative journalism.
Thank you, Yasmin, and thank you, Zaina, for organising this lightning talk and for inviting me to ARIJ to speak about Reporters' Shield. I'm absolutely delighted that ARIJ has joined Reporters' Shield and is leading the community of investigative journalism to do the same. While I wait for the slides to load, I was going to start with Maria Ressa. She is such an inspiring positive force, and because her experience reminds us how the rich abuse the law to silence journalists. Most of the time, sadly, it works. They capitulate. They don't have a proactive strategy against legal threats. They don't know how to find expert lawyers, and they lack the funds to go to court. The result is panic, stress, and self-censorship. Maria Ressa's legal battles began when she published a story connecting a judge to a businessman involved in illegal drugs, human trafficking, and murder. You can imagine the painstaking reporting that would have gone into such a story, and the frustrations of the journalist had she chosen not to publish. But she was confident in her newsroom's editorial processes, and she stood by her journalists and published the story. Maria did not capitulate, and her newsroom, Rappler, continues to report on issues of public interest in the Philippines. Sadly, the use of lawfare to silence journalists is increasing. We heard yesterday that Media Defense has worked on more than 200 lawsuits this year alone, and almost 30% of those were slaps. A slap is a lawsuit that is designed to intimidate and silence you. The plaintiff does not normally expect to win. They're abusing the court system to intimidate you and force your attention away from your investigation. This works because you can't ignore a lawsuit. Every legal threat takes time, effort, and money. Reporters' Shield is an innovative solution to deal with these kinds of lawsuits. It's a not-for-profit membership program designed by journalists for journalists with the support of a global legal network. All members of Reporters' Shield pay in an annual fee to maintain a large mutual defense pot that any of the members can dip into when they need financial support to cover legal costs. It's a way for the investigative journalism community to stand in solidarity with each other by all contributing to a shared fund. If everybody joined, it could end the threat of slaps, or at least the stress and self-censorship that can come with these intimidating lawsuits. So, if you join, what do you get? You get access to expert lawyers on hand before and during an attack. You get the financial stability of knowing that you have a plan in place to cover the costs, and you have the courage to publish the stories you've worked so hard on. What do we provide you and the membership that join? We provide a three-pronged legal assistance strategy of prevention, response, and defense. Prevention is preparation and awareness before you publish to make absolutely sure that you are aware of any legal risks and the mitigations you can take to protect your newsroom and publish with confidence. The response is the important legal letter to return in response to any threat. Threats cannot be ignored. Having a very professional legal letter of response indicates that you are supported and will not be cowed. Often that is enough to squash a slaps case in the bud. If it's not, and they do pursue you to court, we will defend you. We will find you a lawyer, or if you have a lawyer, we will help you pay for that lawyer, and we will support them to represent you in court. We make sure our members are aware of the latest legal developments and what they should be aware of. We provide legal risk assessment for any story covering high-risk jurisdiction. When you receive a formal legal threat, it can be very intimidating. A bullying letter from a big law firm paid for by a rich claimant. You can just hand it over to us, we take care of it for you, and send back an equally robust letter so that you can concentrate on the important reporting that you're doing. Our legal network is growing. We have very many partners around the world, which are visible. Sorry, I'm losing my way in my slides here. Here they are. So you will see that we have recognized legal partners that cover all the high-risk jurisdictions in the world. This legal network is growing because all of our members keep recommending lawyers to us as well. You can use your own lawyer, but if you don't have one, as people often don't, they can come to us and we will make sure to find one with the right expertise for you. So at this point, you're probably thinking, well, why should I join? Join for peace of mind of having a proactive strategy against legal risks. Join to feel prepared for the inevitable. Sadly, SLAPS lawsuits are growing and are a very common risk. Hope is not a risk mitigation strategy. Preparing yourselves and making sure you have the resources to hand is. Finally, if you join Reporters Shield, you will be building solidarity through a mutual defense fund with other investigative journalism newsrooms throughout the world. So at this point, you're probably thinking, yeah, this is a great idea, but how much is this going to cost me? We price each member individually. Our pricing model is based on where your news outlet is, your turnover, the number of stories you publish, and what proportion of those are investigations, and of course, your newsroom's lawsuit history. The average cost is about $3,000, but some pay more and some pay less. We have to charge. We can't sustain the Mutual Defense Fund if we don't. But we know that for many newsrooms are struggling financially, and so we've spoken to various funders about providing subsidies, particularly for the first year of a Reporters Shield membership, so you can try before you buy, if you like. Test the service, find out how much support you get from us, our legal network, but also the other members. And we're delighted that the Swedish government has agreed to support a discount of 75% for any newsroom in the Swana region that applies to Reporters Shield. I'm here for the rest of the day. I have a booth just outside in the main area, and I would be more than happy to talk to any of you who are interested to find out more. And before I say thank you, I'm just sharing some quotes from some of our most recent new members, one of which I'm hoping is here because Mohammed Basiki is our latest member to join from ARIJ, and I haven't had a chance to meet him, but I hope I will today. Shukran, thank you very much.
شكراً كلوثيلد. ستكون زينة.
Thank you, Katie. We'll have Zaina and Kate will be here all through the day and tomorrow. If you have any questions, or if your organization is interested in the peer-to-peer support program, we would also like to announce the open discussion on the mental safety that will be conducted tonight from 9 to 10 p.m. at the Wadi Rum 1 room. It will be moderated by Kate from DART and Ithar Al-Adam, member of the editing commission in ARIJ. And as Clofield said, the Reporters Shield is across from this room, and Clofield will be there until 6 p.m. at the Reporters Shield wing. She can answer all your questions, and Amani will be also available on the internet, and she can also help in Arabic language. Zaina, Kate, Clofield, thank you so much. Thank you so much, dear audience.